Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Hugh Freeze, the Auburn Tigers, although not having the season that a lot of us expected to have in 2024, continue to roll on the recruiting trail. Thursday morning, flipping the commitment of four-star cornerback Shamar Arnoux from USC to Auburn. Where you want to start with this kid, and I think what makes him such a fascinating prospect is you look at the recruiting services, kind of a high three-star, mid four-star ranking. It seems like a lot of the programs that were recruiting him seem to like him a lot more than that. And you kind of see that from time to time where there's a kid that might not be, super high in these recruiting services rankings, but you look at the programs that are going after him and say there's some heavy hitters going after him that really covet this kid. That's kind of the vibe that you get from Shamar Arnoux. Now, as a football player, a couple things you like. One, the size of this kid is huge. I mean, 6'2", 174. He looks bigger than that on the film, probably north of 6'2", pushing 190 pounds. This is a big, long, physical cornerback. Now, the question mark you might have is the long speed working vertically down the field. But with all that size and physicality, that those question marks kind of get mitigated. I think he can operate in a lot of different situations. I think you don't see a ton of press man coverage, but with the size and physicality this kid has, I think he can certainly operate in some press man. But I think he thrives really in that kind of deeper third where he is keeping his eyes on the quarterback, going and making plays on the football. Although a pretty smooth transitioner in man coverage as well, which we'll see on the film. There's a lot to like about this kid, and I think most notably just really good film down there in Carlton, Georgia, 7A football. Like you kind of when you get kids from these kind of schools playing these kind of competition every single Friday, you don't have as many question marks about them translating from high school to the collegiate ranks. And I'll say this, I kind of like the young secondary that Auburn's building. When you look at Donovan Starr or Blake Woodby probably going to play that nickel back, but then you look at J.C. Harder or Jay Crawford or Kayan Lee, there's a lot of young talent in this Auburn secondary. And although they'll lose plenty of names, they lost plenty of names last year, they're kind of refilling that pipeline with a lot of defensive backs that I like a lot. Now, before we get into some of the film, just want to say thank you to you guys and to the Auburn fans again. Although 2024 has been disappointing, and I kind of have egg on my face because I was really high in this Auburn team for 2024. The amount of support y'all continue to show means the world. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. I think more importantly, for Auburn, it's going to be a busy next couple of weeks, not only finishing out the 2025 class, but I think more importantly, this is the year that I would project Auburn and Hugh Freeze to really push their chips into the middle of the table going into 2025. I think it's kind of be like Ole Miss last year. And so we're going to have a lot to talk about over the next couple of weeks. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. Without further ado, let's get into this one now. Getting into Shamar Arnoux again, what you really like is one, I think the versatility. I think he can do a lot at that boundary cornerback position, but I think most importantly, the size. And this is becoming more and more important because there are some freakier and freakier wide receivers, specifically in the SEC. Like you need big, freaky athletes on the boundary to deal with those wide receivers. Think about guys like Perry Thompson or Cam Coleman. Like those kind of wide receivers are becoming more prevalent, and you're starting to see them more often, specifically in the SEC. You need cornerbacks that can match that size and athleticism. And I think Shamar Arnoux really can match that. You dive into the film, there's a couple of things that you really like. One, the size just stands out playing at the bottom of your screen right here. This dude looks so big, and he has a frame that's pretty dang filled out. And you dive into the film, this is probably where he operates the best, where he's kind of sinking in to that deeper third zone coverage and just keeping his eyes on the quarterback. And when that football's in the air, we're breaking on it, using the big frame, making a play with the football in the air. That's probably where he's at his best. But you continue to dive through the film and say, there's still a lot of things that you like in terms of what Shamar Arnoux can do. He is very physical coming downhill and being a tackler, whether it's on the perimeter, whether it's in the run game. You're going to see it both. Again, quick to translate and process what's going on. Not sure what 83 is doing. Probably should be blocking Shamar Arnoux, but Shamar Arnoux's firing downhill, laying the boom. This kid is a big physical guy that wants to get involved in terms of tackling in space on the perimeter and in the run game, which you'll see. Now you see him getting involved a little bit in the run game right now. Again, this is a guy that he wants to get his nose in, and that's kind of rare when you're talking about cornerbacks on the boundary. Normally, they don't want to tackle. Shamar Arnoux with that big frame, he wants to tackle. Now, right here, you see some of the long speed. Now, we're not going to get a rep where he's going to get targeted, but you kind of see how quick the feet are for the size. I mean, just staying in phase. And then when it's time to go hawk down a ball carrier, this is what I mean. When he decides to open it up, like this dude can burn a little bit. And so I'm not that concerned with some of the long speed that you see. You continue to work through the film. Really do like this rep here, staying in phase. You're going to see a little bit of a double move here. Uh, this is rare to see these big cornerbacks, stay in phase like he can. Now, you want to see him probably get his head around and play the football here, which is something you kind of hope he develops as he gets to Auburn. But again, playing through the hands, being physical at the catch point, all things that you like to see from cornerbacks on the film. And again, he's playing high level competition every single Friday night, which makes you think it's going to translate to the SEC. Again, you see he can open it up. And I like when you read some of the scouting reports, you have question marks. He doesn't have the burning track times that some other cornerbacks do. Shamar Arnoux, he seemingly has some really good long speed to match some of these wide receivers working vertically. They're very comfortable leaving him out on an island. You pretty much see this consistently on the film. He does not need a safety over top of him. Putting hands on the wide receiver at the top of the route, physical, knocking the wide receiver off. A lot of things you like to see. And you look at Auburn in the 2025 cycle, not really sure why they don't have the star rankings available for us, but top 5 class in the country. I think most notably, you got Deuce Knight locked up, and it sounds like Auburn's got to play some defense with Deuce Knight and Ole Miss. The line of scrimmage play has to fire a lot of Auburn fans up. You kind of like what the defensive haul is. 2024 was kind of focused on the offensive talent, guys like Walker White, Perry Thompson, Cam Coleman, Malcolm Simmons. Auburn's purpose in the 2025 class is to fill it up with difference makers on the defense. And you start with the front seven, right? Jared Smith, Malik Autry. You continue to scroll down and say guys like Caleb Falk, Jordan Crawford, Nathaniel Marshall. It might be the best defensive line class that we see in 2025. But then you start saying, all right, Eric Winters, Anquan Fagans. You got a guy like Donovan Starr, Blake Woodby. Now a guy like Shamar Arnoux, and say, this Auburn program is building a lot of young talent on the high school recruiting trail, and it's going to get easier for Hugh Freeze to address needs in the transfer portal. As you build a strong pipeline of high school talent, you all of a sudden don't need to go to the transfer portal and refill your roster. Hugh Freeze has had to do that the last couple of years because Brian Harsin left him a dumpster fire. Now, I think the concerning part is this team is more talented than the games they're winning, and you want to start seeing Hugh Freeze win games when he's more talented than the other team across from him. I think that'll help as they get the quarterback position figured out. They're going to be able to be a lot more targeted in the transfer portal, right? Hugh Freeze going into this year's transfer portal saying, hey, we don't need to overturn this full roster. We just got to go address some big names and kind of fill in some glaring holes, specifically at the quarterback position. You don't need to worry about grabbing 25 guys in the transfer portal. And as Hugh Freeze continues to stack these kind of classes, he's not going to have to get so desperate in the portal. I think that's going to help the transfer portal, kind of bringing in, more just pure playmakers instead of just filling your roster through the portal. We'll close it out there. Another big victory for Hugh Freeze on the recruiting trail. I think what excites me the most, what happens when Auburn starts winning football games. Right now, I think Hugh Freeze is selling a lot of these kids on the vision of Auburn, and it's clearly working. What happens when that vision becomes a reality? If it becomes a reality in 2025, you might see that. And this Auburn team's already kind of got a kickstart in 2026. I would keep your eyes out for the 2026 class. We'll cut it there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.